Another URC morning for me over here in NZ. Thank you to the Irish sides for putting on the kickoffs a bit late. 8:35 in the morning kickoff for me here. Connacht and Ulster, 17 points to 7. Connacht, you dropped a lot of ball. Oh my gosh. I'll get to some stats at the end, but Connacht dropped a lot of ball. Ulster, big old defensive shift to hold them out. Managed to bag themselves a couple of tries. By no means perfect, but they seem to be having to blood a few youngsters in this game as well. But yes, I think if you're a Connacht fan, you'll be particularly frustrated with that one, just in terms of the skills execution. Both these sides were looking to bounce back after last week, but yes, it is Ulster who get it done. They were underdogs going into this one. I was checking the odds and whatnot prior to kickoff. So, ultimately a pretty good win for Ulster in the scheme of things. We'll go through some of the key events and the stats, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. But overall, I think the URC had a pretty good weekend. There's still 2 games left from the Welsh sides to go from this round. It's a bizarre split of fixtures throughout the weekends, but like the Sharks and the Stormers, I've seen a little bit of that. That was on at 4 in the morning, so I only watched a little bit of it, but highlights-wise, seemed to be a really good crowd, and Edinburgh and Glasgow had a good crowd, so yeah, there was a good crowd out in attendance in Galway as well. Ulster in a black kit, which was kind of reminiscent of some previous Welsh away kits. But Ulster in black. But they were having to defend early. Bundy Aki, who was making a whole bunch of carries in this game, he ended up knocking it on. Ulster ended up kicking a 50-22, but then ended up kind of knocking on from the resulting line-out. So it was a little bit scrappy to start with. The scrums were painful early on. They took a long time to get set. Once they did finally start getting set with regularity, Connacht certainly managed to get the upper hand on that regard. But yeah, loads of Ulster pressure early, to be honest. And they managed to convert it. Eric O'Sullivan, the loose head prop, he's able to get the first try. Who had him as first try scorer for this game? I mean, they had advantage, and after a few phases, he was able to kind of burrow over from close range. So something they struggled with last week was the conversion of those red zone opportunities. From an Ulster perspective, pleasing to see them get that one early. And then, McNabney, he ended up having the most run meters, I think joint first in this game, but first for Ulster, and I think largely through to a Izzy Chukwu big looping pass, and then he just hits a big gap kind of out of nowhere, tore up the field, and Connacht's defence had to scramble. They gave away a penalty, which Doak was able to slot. So, the big number 8 causing a bit of havoc, and 10 points to 0 to Ulster. So, not a bad way to start the game. The crowd's pretty quiet, kind of unsurprisingly, because their team's not really been showing that much that far. But that being said, as I mentioned, their scrum did start to get on top. But after 25 minutes, they had like 39% territory. They'd been camped down their own end for large periods. They did manage to apply a bit of pressure, and they managed to score their only try of the game, their only points of the game through Jack Carty. Kind of just, they had advantage, and they had been throwing the kitchen sink seemingly the Ulster guys, but Carty just put one of his trademark little dinks over the top, and I swear you could do that kick 50 times and not get that same outcome where all 3 Ulster guys chasing the ball. It was almost like comedic in how they couldn't take the ball between the 3 of them. I think Lowry ended up bouncing off him, and Mac Hansen's able to gather it from the scramble and go over for a try. So I guess in terms of Ulster, you'd be saying like that was like not really a defensive failing per se, just a crazy bit of havoc caused from a kick. Because largely, they only conceded the 1 try. Largely, the defence was pretty solid. Connacht will be a little bit frustrated they weren't able to break them down after that. But it was a good try. Really nice. Hansen was able to bag it. You got to chase those kicks, and he chased them. You could chase that another 49 times and not have that happen, but he chased that one. They had advantage anyways, so why not go for it? He's able to bag it. So 10 points to 7. And with the way Connacht's scrum was on top and the way the guys kept dropping the ball, I figured Connacht probably go on to win. If they keep getting penalties, you keep kicking down the opposite end of the field, you're bound to get more points. I mean, the territory's evened up. 51-49 is the halftime total. So Connacht were able to certainly get themselves down Ulster's end for the latter periods of that first half. They've had more possession, 60-40. Clean breaks is 2-1. Turnovers conceded is 8-6, which is a little bit high. But that gets worse in the second half, especially for Connacht, and the penalty count is 7-4, with Ulster conceding a fair few of those at scrum time. Second half, the crowd does get going. Jack Carty, it's not a 50-22, but he puts in a really nice kick for touch, which gets his team up the field. The crowd really get behind that. Good, you love it when the crowd appreciates a good kick, not just kind of tries. It means they're really watching the game, but they were watching. Scrum continued to dominate, but then, just mistakes. Soft penalty conceded not long later for an obstruction from a kick. Prior to that, they'd lost a line. I think it was Ijichuku that stole it. And then that basically couple of soft plays directly leads to Ulster taking an opportunity in the second half, which they didn't have a lot of time down the red zone for Connacht. But 5-metre line out, McNabney, great take in the air. And then Timoney. I think I've called him T-Money in the past because he's worth every penny. He powers over from close range. I mean, the dude is a massive defensive chef, but he also gets the second try for Ulster. Great set from the line out. He just powers over with a couple of guys supporting him. So 17 points to 7. It is a good conversion. But yeah, you'd be frustrated if you Connacht to directly let those errors lead to a chance for Ulster, which they took. Connacht looked to push back immediately. Ulster win a turnover. Next chance, Connacht knock on. Connacht get a penalty down Ulster's end. They kick the bloody thing dead. Kyle Ford. So it's a real let-off. 5-metre scrum attack they had on 73 minutes. They must score. That's the one time Ulster get a scrum penalty. Connacht missed a lot of chances, but you got to give a lot of credit to the way Ulster defended because, it's the defensive pressure that makes those errors some of the time. Some of them are unforced, but yeah, between those combination of things, Ulster able to walk away with a pretty good win in the scheme of things. They'll be happy to to get a win and get their spirits up. Territory finishes 61-39 to Connacht, possession 64-36. They had a lot of ball, enough chances to win this game. Turnovers conceded is 21-7. 21. That's a good effort getting into the 20s in a bad way. You hardly see that number get that high. Turnovers won was 7-4 to Ulster. Penalties conceded 14-9 to Connacht. You could argue if the penalty count is 5 higher, you're getting well into double figures, maybe there should be a yellow card warning, but it was never penalty, I don't think. There was always penalty, error, penalty the other way kind of thing. It wasn't like a string of penalties cynically back to back. Not that I feel like. McNabney, made 18 tackles. Timoney made 14. Timoney also won a couple of turnovers. Postlethwaite had 3 turnovers won. As I mentioned, McNabney finished with 57 metres, which was first equal for the game. Aki had 11 defenders beaten, which is pretty bonkers. He was doing a lot of that heavy lifting. Also 17 carries, but yeah, they just couldn't finish things off. Piers O'Connor also had 57 metres. And one of the weirdest moments in the game, which I had to rewind to sure they said it, one of the commentators said goes through the hands of Piers Morgan when one of Connacht's many errors had Piers O'Connor's pass getting pinched. Yeah, Piers Morgan apparently on the pitch for Connacht. So there you go. Connacht, once URC gets back underway, latter part of January, will be away to Glasgow, which will be tough. Ulster will host Zebre, which they would, in theory, like to go back-to-back. Back-to-back URC wins. But there you go. Ulster, defensive shift, sees them hold off Connacht, and Connacht, a heck of a lot of errors. But at least the scrum was good. You guys let us know your thoughts. I think I'm going to head off to the beach with my family because it's a nice summer's day here in New Zealand and it is still very much the festive period. Thank you very much for being along. Hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Happy holidays and yes, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.